All right, big fella. What you got?
Well, hot topic here in the southern Indiana. More importantly, Spencer County, just a couple miles south of here, actually. Indiana executes Roy Lee Ward.
Oh, they did that this morning,
for
didn't
the
they?
2001 murder of teenager Stacy Payne. So death mate Roy Lee Ward was executed by lethal injection last night, this morning at 12:01 when the shot was administered, and he was confirmed dead at 12:33. It's kind of a racy topic. It's kind of kind of something that I've been not necessarily stewing on, but just something that I've kind of been thinking of lately. More so when you hear about, like, when he went for his clemency trial a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, clemency hearing.
And for him to actually basically plead for his life, plead for clemency or whatever they call that. And then you hear the testimonials from the actual first responders, police officers, EMS crew that were there on scene that day. And, you try to put your foot into their shoe and just kind of relive, what they did and what they had to experience that day. And you know what? It's tough to really find any sympathy for a man after, hearing those kind of testimonials.
Well, it's interesting as the one that has done criminal defense work. And really, this is a recent trend in the state of Indiana. They restarted doing capital punishment and doing the actual things probably last year, maybe. They started, I think they did 2, and he's the third one here in recent history. The big problem with these that have gone on is finding the correct drug cocktail that they use to do this. That's why you've seen some other states.
Lead works good.
That's why you've seen some other states go into doing
Got him.
gas chambers.
Mm-hmm.
I think with nitrogen.
That worked real well back in the 40s.
Oh yeah. I think
that's history.
Yeah, it's different. I think that was cyanide that they used for that.
Yeah, nitrogen just thieves all the oxygen out and you just suffocate to
That's
death.
what they do to the turkeys, right? They just pump, is it nitrogen, or they just pump pure CO2 into those, what they do with the turkeys?
I don't know. We'd have to ask one of our local turkey farmers. But you've seen firing squads come back.
Mm-hmm. Utah?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. South Carolina, maybe. So it's been a trending thing for it to come back. But, I have a hard time with it.
Here's the thing that kind of gets me when I say that I was stewing on it, which I don't really understand. But so at least one of these sets of pentobarbital was expected to be used for Ward's execution. Any unused drugs will expire at the end of the month, according to the new court documents. The governor previously disclosed that the state officials spent $1.175 million on lethal injection doses over the last year, $600,000 of which was spent by former Governor Eric Holcomb's administration on drugs that expired before use. The cost has anywhere between $275,000 and $300,000 per dose.
Yeah.
For a human execution, which absolutely boggles my mind.
Well, the reason that is because when those companies that make them, that's what they
pretty much just name their price.
Well, that's exactly right. But the thing of it is, I think with this, the new, because used to they administered 3. There was one to kind of sedate, there was one to slow down your breathing, and then there was one to just stop your heart, which is the pentobarbital. I don't know if I said that. I think that's
fine.
Close.
We get it. I mean,
but,
you're right there.
So now what they've done is they've made like a mix, and it comes mixed like that because I think that was what Ward's defense team, which was they raised some last minute objections to it because it's basically mixed somewhere else in a lab and then delivered to the state, where it's not like a pure form where you're dropping one after the other. But it's wild because in these situations, like from the criminal defense world, like we're in law school, I think, and we asked the question, like, if you had a client that you represented and they got this, the death penalty, would you want to be there? And really talk about, like, this was conversations over multiple beers. And it was interesting because, like, it was just one of those things where the conversation circled around, like, it really depends on, if you had a good relationship with the defendant. Because a lot of times in these situations, whoever was trial counsel or whatever, even appellate counsel, these people blame them for not being able to, win. And so there's not a good relationship there. Because, like, the people representing him in the end for everything, like in the clemency and, when he tried to exhaust his other options, those were all state public defenders that tax dollars, pay to do that.
That's what this, going back to it, it said the Indiana Parole Board recommended against clemency last month, citing that the heinous nature of Ward's crime. But then the defense team's testimony emphasized a recent autism spectrum disorder diagnosis.
Of course.
Of Ward's expression of no remorse. Mike Braun, obviously subsequently allowed the execution to proceed. But I think the one thing that I read, which was wild, is that he was bitching about the death chamber at Michigan City having something about it had a two-way mirror to where obviously the viewing gallery could watch him take his last breaths for their own, closure or whatever you would call it. But the inmate was unable to see the looks on their faces, prior to his subsequent execution.
Yeah.
And I guess, everybody has to have their last wish and their last meal.
No, you don't.
Exactly.
You don't.
You know what I mean? That may sound heinous and cold of me, but I don't know. Like, for them to bring that up, I don't know if they were looking for a change of venue or if they were looking for something to where fucking bring him in the room. You know what I mean? I don't know obviously that's probably got something to do with his current mental state, knowing that he's going to meet his judgment. But it's wild to me to think for him to talk his attorneys in to try to bring that up. Like, hey, we can't do this here because he can't see through the window to watch him die.
That tells you, they're
just trying to scratch and claw for anything to drag shit
I'm
out.
not any kind of.
It's been drug out for 26 years. We've been providing this fucker 3 hots and a cot for this whole long time. And, they could have, like, everybody talks about that day, and nobody wants to put their foot into that police officer's shoes. But when those police officers entered the home, which I have absolutely no ground to stand on by making the statement, but everybody always says they could have saved the state so much money if they would have just fucking plugged him right there, because he was actively holding the knife over top of this young gal when they walked in, as according to the court documents and everything at that time, which...
Well, everybody says that, but that goes all the way back to World War I and the guy that let Hitler by and not shoot him. You know what I mean? Like, you can play that what if game, but those guys, they're not trained to just, rip the trigger. Like, there's some stuff that has to go on. You got to try. And I'm sure as soon as the cop came in, told him to stop or drop or whatever, he did. The only thing you could do is if he was actively engaged in that to where he did it in the defense of another. But
true.
It's just, you just remember it as a kid because we were younger kids. Dave, you weren't even in the area yet.
Mm-mm.
And it just...
Yeah, I've never heard of this.
Really?
Before.
Just down.
Just south of the interstate.
There's a house when you're going on the...
Used to...
the on-ramp to 64 heading east, as if you're going down 231, there's a little brown house right there. That's exactly where it was.
Before they put the new 231 in, where you go up to the co-op, like going back to get rock and everything now, that road went straight across the interstate right there, and then there was a left-hand turn to go into Denny's, Mega Maze.
Oh, Mega Maze.
There's a gas station up there. And then that road goes back to Winkler Wholesale Trucking and the Chrome Dome and Dale Lake and a bunch of shit back there. And I guess they were outside. Her and her sister was outside playing, and this guy had came up this Roy Ward had came up and told him that he was looking for his like a lost dog or
I don't
some. I
remember.
think that was what the story was, that he had lost his dog or some shit, and she unfortunately let him in the house to use the phone, and he just clubbed her over the head with a dumbbell, like an 8-pound dumbbell, and then continued the task there. But yeah, it was just literally, we could be there in 6 minutes from where this all happened. But I don't know. I would just, it brings a big argument, as a nation about capital punishment, and how they said that there were actual like anti, capital punishment activists in the parking lot of the jail up there at Michigan City, during this situation. But, they had a bunch of signs and shit set up that said the death penalty targets poor people, and, and all this stuff, which, I mean, I don't see it. I guess if you don't have the lawyers and all the big monies and stuff
but
like that. But
in these cases, so how this process works, it's not just like miraculously it happens. A prosecutor has to file an intent to seek. It becomes a capital case, basically. It has to file a petition to seek the death penalty. And how that works is, you're correct. If you cannot afford representation, which I couldn't imagine the dollar amount that you would need to privately hire somebody for legal fees and something like this.
Didn't this conversation get brought up about a murder that happened in DuBois County in the last 10 years, and there was a bunch of folks that thought that the type of heinous crime that he had committed on the young gal that would warrant the death penalty because of the situation and all of the contributing factors. But you and I were having some beers and we're having a conversation about it, and you said that there was no way that DuBois County as a whole could afford.
It's an expensive.
Could even afford to have like a death penalty trial.
I mean, you could, but it's really fact sensitive. And I'm not a prosecutor, I never was. But being a defense attorney, you kind of understand. A lot of times you see the death penalty in extremely heinous crimes. Crimes against law enforcement. A lot of times, crimes in which children, are victims of the situation. So you really see that, heinous of a crime that it gives rise to that. Now, prosecutor has to file an intent for the death penalty, and that's probably not the right word for it, but there's a filing made, and as soon as that happens, when they file that, you damn near, the attorney that takes over the case, almost all their other cases get dropped off. Like, they basically, because they've worked on this, because there's been appeals, there's been things happen.
They're going to lock in on
They
this.
basically take, they pluck 2 attorneys, and this is basically all they eat, sleep, and breathe until the trial's over. And so it really, like, they look at what, like, the attorney's caseload is, all this stuff to focus on and do that. Any experts you need when you've got public representation, footed by the taxpayers, experts, different things like that. So it's just such a huge cost to try a case. And, if you scroll through and you look at individuals that are, on death row, there's the Weishaupt, I think it is, out of Evansville. Mm-hmm. The facts of that crime was, 2 children, arson, death. I don't know. That one I think was tried over in Perry County with a change of a judge venue, but that's the kind of cases you get to where it happens. But
they said on average it's less than 30 in the United States of America per year are actually executed, and they said in 2022 it was 18. So that's the most recent Google figure that
it's just one of those deals. But not to change gears, because it is still involved in crime. How about Mark Sanchez up in Indy? Did you see that, Dave?
The announcer guy that beat the shit out of that old guy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a
69-year-old man, and he beat the piss out of that feller.
Yeah.
And that guy was lucky enough to get a blade in him, too.
Yeah, a couple times.
Got him shivved in the gut there, and then they ended up coming to the hospital and arresting Sanchez.
I went and looked up the affidavit of probable cause and read it, and it is wild, the facts of this case. As you read it, basically this guy was doing his job. He was loading out frying oil from the Westin, and Sanchez like gets up in the truck and was like, "You can't be here." And the guy was like, "What do you mean? This is part of my route. Like, this is what I do." And Sanchez like, "You can't be here. You can't do this." And so like got up in the truck and tried to get in the truck on the passenger side, and the driver was trying to do all this. And then next thing he knows, like the Sanchez like threw him, and he hit a pallet. And I don't know who I was talking to, but
he had a big. Did you see the photos of the guy?
They said the gash. He could almost stick his tongue through the gash on the side of his cheek.
What's he got against blue collar working guys?
Well, he's a California guy, so
and he's famously known for butt fumbling.
Yeah, well, he fumbled this one because at first
what the fuck's a butt fumble?
It was in a game. He ran into one of the linemen and fumbled it, and he ran into like the lineman's butt, kicked the ball out, and then that's what happened. But and actually he at first everything was about misdemeanors, and then they amended the charges, and he's charged with level 5 felony with 1 to 6 years in the Department of Corrections. So, but I think this guy had already the victim in this. Alleged victim, obviously it's just allegations at this point, but the alleged victim, they've already filed suit against Sanchez and Fox and on the civil side of it.
How can they sue his employer?
Well, see, there's the rumor mill is wild, and again, all this is allegedly that this may be possibly the erratic behavior. This wasn't the first time, because for there to be some kind of immediate, I mean, it'll get found out in discovery, but obviously they're operating under the pretense that Fox knew that this was a possibility.
Kind of a
loose cannon, and they didn't do anything about it. And
you look at those old washed-up quarterbacks. He's probably got a little touch of CTE. He's got that big head and fat pockets on TV.
Well, his house is nice.
Yeah, thinking he can do whatever he want to in the city of Indianapolis, and.
Well, the truck driver stood up for all truck drivers and got him a couple of...
Well, just wait till they get the Teamsters involved. He'll be fucked.
How do you know this guy was part of Teamsters?
Yeah. That's just pure speculation.
Okay.
But if he is, he'll be fucked.
Just wondering.
Because the Teamsters union's a pretty big deal.
Well, what would their involvement be in this?
Truck drivers, man.
Well, I understand that, but what are they going to do for this guy?
Probably
put him in concrete somewhere.
Yeah.
Jimmy Hoffa.
Jimmy Hoffa, yeah.
Pony up the money for the legal fees. Maybe they'll really back the organization there.
Yeah, well, we'll see.